And welcome to Candidates Corner on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television, a project of the Libertarian Party. Dan Fishman, executive producer. My name is Pat Ford. I'm your host. I'm chair of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. And as always, on the big board, John Gabso. Folks, we're experimenting a little bit with times, with formats as we sort of redesign the show for a post-election format in the run-up to next year's mid-midterm elections. So for the next few weeks, we'll be starting at 9:30 Eastern time. That's so we give folks an opportunity on the West Coast to hear it live post-work. And we're going to be hosting a number of candidates, some who were managed to be successful despite the challenges of the 2020 election cycle, some who weren't but ran fabulous campaigns, as so many libertarians did. And we're going to introduce a new, if you will, element to the show, and that is to have, on a weekly basis, to have a representative of each state affiliate as the year goes on. Tonight it'll be New York. Next week we've got it tentatively slated to the great state of Maine. But we're going to focus on the same type of issues that we do with our candidates. The type of state, economy, the issues that are important to the state, as well as some of the challenges that the state affiliates are facing going into 2021. Issues like fundraising, ballot access, their relationship with the duopoly as it's exhibited through, for example, the Secretary of State's office. So we're looking forward to an exciting year. We welcome your comments and your suggestions. You can make them to hourwiththecandidates@gmail.com or reach out to me on Facebook, Pat Ford. So let's get started tonight. Again, an exciting evening. It is my heartfelt congratulations to, first of all, an alumnus of this show, as well as someone I believe the fates have portended a great future in the libertarian philosophy. Of course, I'm talking about Trisha Butler. She was elected to the town council of the great, is it a village, a town, a city of Clarksville, Clarksville, Tennessee. Trisha, welcome back to the show. And again, you know, it's been such a tough year with the plague, with the politics of the duopoly, with all of the surrounding gloom and doom issues, that the success of your campaign, the success of Kalisha's last week, we've got other folks who managed to win, as well as the success of a number of folks who didn't quite win, but brought great efforts to, if you will, disseminating, portraying, explaining, speaking to the philosophy of the Libertarian Party. But again, our congratulations on winning, and people around the country are visibly excited for you and all of our candidates, but particularly those folks who managed to break through. What was your initial thought upon winning?
I don't know that I still believe it. So I actually was doing a live stream myself at work, and I went back and watched it a little bit, and it was just, and that's how I still feel now, you know, it just, shock and awe.
No, but it's outstanding because it's we all agree it's the win, and that's fun. It's got to be fun to win. It's exciting to win as a libertarian to an important office like town council, because as we said when you were on the show for the first time, and to Kalish and a number of other folks running for town council, you have the opportunity and also the responsibility to really deliver in a very practical environment the libertarian philosophy to people who may never have met a libertarian before, certainly weren't, and we use this term very carefully on this show, governed. Actually, I think we're gonna take a poll. We're going to eliminate the term. Last week we used the term stewardship, that you are going to provide a stewardship for the resources, the talents, the economies, the people of the city of Clarksville, and that's just got to be so exciting to you.
The word steward was actually on my platform in regard to, you know, the responsibility, just as you said, to the people of Clarksville and their money, you know, and so many other things too. But frequently that's the part that we focus on.
Right. Well, town council is in its own sense so utilitarian. Yet again, we just will repeat time and time, has such a profound impact on so many people's lives. For example, there will be young people growing up in Clarksville who will consider, thanks to your efforts, the notion that they are being in a position of stewardship, if you will, is a libertarian to be a completely normal event. That
Right?
alone,
We're
is
not the
something.
crazies.
No, well, yeah,
We
we can
have
be.
our crazies, but the philosophy in and of itself is not the crazies.
Right.
You know, this is really, you know, the way things are supposed to be. The way that I look at it, you know, this is the simplest way to boil it down. What am I going to do on Clarksville City Council? Well, I'm going to do what the government is supposed to do. Very little, you know, and just kind of bring that focus back to what the government's been doing that it shouldn't necessarily be doing.
Right. Nailed it. You know, it's the old, one of the oldest lines in the libertarian book. We seek to attain the highest levels of power so we can leave everyone the hell alone.
Yes.
So let's kind of refresh people on Clarksville and some of the issues, even in the few months since we last spoken. Cities like Clarksville, well, like cities like Providence or where I live, or Dan Fishman, you know, behind the scenes work, he's down in DC. They're facing the same type of terrible decisions. We are all allegedly on this second rush, if you will, of the dreaded COVID, the dreaded Corona. And so how is the town of Clarksville addressing this? What are the issues as a result? And what type of emphasis would you like to place on these different issues within Clarksville?
When we're talking about COVID, you know, I actually work for a gentleman who is he had a heart transplant, so I'm very careful personally in wearing my mask around him. But I will tell you this much: I am pretty excited for the day that I get to vote on the mandate. And you know, it's symbolic around here because our county mayor, he actually makes that decision, but we do the vote at a city council level. And you know, I very much press to people, wear a mask, protect the people around you, but I'm never going to tell someone that they have to wear it, you know. So I'm not big on the mandates. I've been steadfast with that the whole way through. I've done videos where I'm saying, hey, let's normalize wearing a mask, but if you don't want to wear it, you know, I'm not going to be the one that tells you that you have to. So that's kind of where we're at on that. We don't have any big shutdowns or anything. We do have a mask mandate right now, and by and large, it's honestly not being followed. And you know, of course, my boss, being where he is with his health, he's very much like, you know, don't patronize those businesses. And I'm like, no, here's how it goes. If you don't want to wear a mask and you know that there are businesses that will pay, you can patronize. If you don't want to wear a mask, then go to the businesses. And if you, as a business, want to tell people they have to wear a mask to come into your store, I mean, that is all on, you know, each individual business to make that decision, you know, and then we can choose or not choose to utilize the business. And that's where I stand on the COVID and particularly mask mandates and things like that.
You know, here in Rhode Island, our governor has come to the conclusion that effectively businesses are doing such a good job on their own of A, making their own decision, but also B, observing social distancing, doing all the right things in a smart way, that a great deal of the acceleration of COVID that's happening, depending on how you interpret the numbers, of course, is a result of interactions within people through quote unquote normalized daily events. And so we've proven through extensive contract tracing that if businesses are mature and adult and take their own approach, they're not the problem. Yet at the same time, the focal point, if you will, of so many efforts across the country by government, municipalities, all of that is on business. Why, you know, between businesses collecting taxes, between businesses being responsible for the social welfare of the individual, between businesses, you know, let's get crazy here, businesses actually conducting their business, between businesses having to assume all responsibility for all things COVID, at what point in time, Trisha, do we get back to just letting businesses be businesses?
Yeah, okay, let's go ahead and do that 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, and that's where we go. You just had my platform up there, minimal government intrusion. People are allotted the it's their inherent right to make their own decisions, whether you agree with them or not, whether they're good decisions or bad decisions, and then the consequences fall on them. And the problem is really here is the micromanaging. And one of the big things that I've been harping on as of late is like, okay, the election's over now. You've already manipulated people's emotions on, when it comes to the duopoly in particular. You've already manipulated their emotions, and we're already divided one side and the other. Now, can we actually get some legitimate statistics that aren't being inflated or deflated based on, someone's political agenda? And I ran on people over politics, and that's the same place that I am today. Is now it's time to start thinking about the people. And I mean, this global pandemic. This happens every 100 years. All right, we're gonna make it through it, and just like on election day, the next day, on the other side of that day, we still all have to live and function and be humans together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's striking your point about the 100 years. We will survive this. I'll spare you my rendition of "There's Got to Be a Morning After" from the Poseidon Adventure. I'll spare you that. But there has to be a morning after. But do we continue to be held hostage by statistics and knowing full well that statistics lie? Statistics can be manipulated to one's perspective. They can be outcome directed. So why do you think government, and I had a moment this week where I got to ask our governor a question, and I asked her, could you please respond to the basic questions that people want to know? And the most fundamental question that I see everywhere on the web, whether it be in Rhode Island or California, is that for a disease that has an infinitesimally low morbidity rate, why are we willing to shut down our entire economy? Why won't politicians answer that question directly?
Oh, that's a terrific question. Here, I'll be a politician. I don't have the answer to that question. Why are they doing the things that they're doing? I mean, the only thing that it comes down to me is, it's either one of two things. It's about emotion or a control. Like that's how it boils down for me.
Now, you managed to pull off a win here, a dramatic win. Let's talk now about the interim time between you were here and the actual election. What took place in the last month or two from your campaign and the reactions of individuals in your community that led to this win? Is there any one thing you could point to, or was it really if you will, a variety of events that took place over time?
Well, I will tell you this, it's dirty. It's extremely dirty. And I always tell everybody, I'm not sure if this is a Clarksville thing or if this is in every town or, how it goes, but it's extremely dirty. And, it was very stressful in the last month or so, and you're done. And this is me speaking to future candidates. All right. In that last few weeks, now for me, I had been waving signs. I had my family, I was working, my family's out there waving signs for me 8 hours a day. I go out there, I wave for the last, 4 hours of the day. And that was getting taxing on me, knowing that someone was out there doing something for me when I couldn't physically be there. I hated that. And then, I took the last few days off at the end of early voting, and then I took election day off, and I'm out there waving signs and waving signs. And, it was like once early voting hit, I was like, I'm done. I'm just going to sit back now, and, what happens, happens. And I think this is very important, especially to underdog candidates like, libertarians tend to be. Right in that moment, every other candidate feels just the same way. They're done. They're ready to rest. They just want to let it hash out how it happens. And that's the point when you pedal to the metal, you know, that's that final 100 meters, and you run as hard and fast as you can. You can puke at the finish line, you know. Sorry, Army. That's me, Army.
No, I have this mental image of you on that. You know, every great Army film has at least one obstacle course scene where, you know, you're literally, you know, you're pulling yourself up to go over the wall. That's always the deal, right? Everybody gets hung up at the wall, and those who succeed somehow find that extra pedal to the metal. What did you have an inspiration for that? What drives you?
So the biggest thing for me, and I would encourage anyone who is going to run, you have to have your family, your people behind you, you know. And for me, my team was my family, and a couple other people too. It was important for me to have some people that were more politically minded. My family was there motivating me because they were there. And on the same token, I had to have people who they don't care the same way that your family does, right? So they're going to push you to your absolute limit. So, you know, I would encourage people to have both of those things. You need your support system, and you also need that one person that's gonna tell you keep running till you puke. Because, you know, my sister was like, "You're so stressed out. I love you. Just take, you know." But you have to have that one person that's like, "I don't care, go." You gotta have your drill sergeant, you know. Since we're comparing it all to military now, I guess.
No, but you bring up a critical point, and that's organization. And
Yep.
one of the things, I know you and I spoke offline just a little bit, but one of the things that I want to focus on tonight for a few minutes is organization going into the election. But now it's interesting because you and Kalish and a number of other people managed to break through that ceiling and become elected. And in order to stay elected, that organization is what you need to build and what's going to carry you through, so that you're, you know, when you run next time, you know, you're taking advantage of being an incumbent, and you've got people on the ground during your stewardship. And let's just say in Clarksville, is it a 2-year term or a 4-year term as a council person?
It's 4 years.
4 years, great. So for 4 years, you've got the opportunity not only to fulfill your promises, if you will, or what you represented to the voters, but you've also got an opportunity to build an organization that is similar in a way to style the way the duopoly does it, but not just focused on fundraising for the sake of fundraising, and not just focused on sort of the cult of personality aspect that is the trademark, if you will, of the Democratic and Republican parties, but allows you the opportunity a bit to build up constituent services and issues like that. So who was in your group, if you will, your campaign manager, who handled the money, and who was that person? If you don't mind me, you can call them out and thank them at the same time. Who was that person? Who was your drill sergeant?
So my drill sergeant's actually a secret. However, so here's the thing. So you asked me a couple different questions. I don't know that you knew that. My campaign manager, for the most part, I did have a guy that was my campaign manager early on, but you know, he's got some health issues and stuff. So in the end, I ended up being my own campaign manager, and I would encourage people to get a campaign manager, because I just happen to be a little too controlling, and candidates tend to be that way. So you need someone to, you know. But my treasurer was my sister, and she was definitely a driving force. I've always been her candidate. I was her candidate before anyone else took an interest in what I was trying to do. And my best friend Nicole, she was my events coordinator turned volunteer coordinator turned. She was the one down there waving. I think some people think she's Trisha Butler, actually.
So you had a team going into this.
Yes.
What do you think your approach is going to be now that you're elected and moving forward? And as part of that, what was your vote total that you needed to win, and how many votes did you walk away with?
So I was aiming for 1,850 votes. And of course, this was back when it was, you know, a 2 or 3 man race. The ballot did get flooded. I do feel like that was done maliciously.
Right.
Yeah, I really do. And I know it's like a tinfoil hat thing, but 6 people running for one position, and five of them, well, four of them were conservative Christian men. It's kind of the same. We're pulling from the same pool at this point.
Right. Absolutely.
So 1850 was my win number when I started off way ago. And shoot, see, I usually have this pulled up. I think we ended up having around 5,000 people vote, which is exceptionally high. We actually had media from Nashville come down into my precinct, the last precinct, the biggest precinct in the city. And it was taking them, 2.5 hours to get through the line to vote. People were I was out there with them, until the polls closed. Of course, there was still the line. But I ended up garnering 1,791 votes.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I won actually by 113 votes.
So literally every bit of that effort, the blood, the sweat, the toil, the time away from the family, the commitment to the party and the philosophy, all of that mattered at every single step. There was and by the way, your fears are well founded. It is a conventional trick, particularly in the when you're running against establishment parties like that, for the parties to throw in sacrificial lambs, if whatever the regional term is, to diffuse that third party / independent / unidentified voter.
Despite the fact that I was in a one-party election, that was still very much a thing.
Mm-hmm. It's common, and libertarians need to be ready for that, because very often those candidacies are last minute, filing deadline day kind of candidacies that are promoted by people connected to establishment parties. And understanding now that you go ahead, buddy.
That did happen too. I mean, I had been running for 2 years, and there were 2 other candidates that had told me a year out that they were also going to run. And then lo and behold, the time to pick up our petitions came out, and then all of a sudden, we doubled up the ballot. So that's absolutely a thing people need to be very cognizant of.
Right. So now let's look forward for a minute. We've spoken extensively about your campaign in the past, and that fire in the belly that you need to have, as you so provocatively put, so that when you puke at the end of the morning, you'll know you left it all on the table, and that's when usually "Up Where We Belong" or some song like that sings when you've got victory. But now let's take a moment to look forward. When are you sworn in, and what are the issues facing you with urgency?
So I get sworn in. This is funny. The last thing I heard was either the 1st or 2nd of January. Now, this is funny because the way our city council works is the executive meeting. So the meeting before the meeting, the discussion meeting, is the last Thursday of the month. And then the voting meeting is the first Thursday of the month. So what I'm looking at now is I'm kind of questioning, and I'm just waiting for the mayor's office did reach out. He said, "Hey, we're going to have a meeting here soon." So I'm waiting for that meeting. But I'm going, is that what we're going to do? Are you going to have the old city council do the discussion and then have us come in and do the voting? Because, to me, that there's zero logic there, so they wouldn't do that. But, especially in local politics, you never know what fast ones they're gonna try to pull,
Right.
And my mentor, who is actually another libertarian elected person here in the county, he said, be ready for that. The next 5 months is gonna be a lot of people trying to pull fast ones over on you guys because you're new. And historically, we have 12 city council members, and 7 of them completely flipped. We will have 7. More than half of our city council is brand new, and that's because we had one running special because we had a seat that had been vacated.
Now, will there be a city council president election, as there are in so many cities across the country?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, okay. So is there a city council president in Clarksville? Is there someone who is recognized as a city council leader, if you will?
Not to my knowledge. The only thing that
Okay.
I know is, of course, we have a mayor pro tem. There it is.
Okay.
I want to tell you guys the story of my election is actually slightly wild.
Hmm.
If you want to hear it, do you want to hear it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we were the last ward to come in, the last numbers to wait. After early voting numbers came in, I was up by 20 votes. And then one of the precincts came in, and I have 2 precincts. One of the precincts came in, and I was down by 7 votes. And at that point, I had resigned to the fact that I was going to lose. Like, period. No one could talk me out of it. So we had a couple more numbers come in. I think it was the 2nd precinct came in, and I was up by 45 votes. Now with early voting and with that, you'd think that's when everyone started calling me. Even the local newspaper called me. They said, "Hey, are we calling this yet?" And I was like, "No, there's still a precinct out." Well, my precinct still had absentee numbers in, and I'm in a largely military populated city. I am a veteran. The guy that I was running against, that you see there, I was neck and neck with, he is actually an old special forces guy. So I was quite terrified by the absentee ballots, that, maybe he would have picked up more of the military population. And so, yeah, they called me and asked to call it. And I said, not until that last precinct comes in. I'm hunkering down. So while I'm sitting there biting my nails, everybody's calling me and congratulating me. So it was wild. It was a wild night. It was almost midnight by the time. Yep. 32%, I think it was. Yep. 32.6% in a 6-way race. I'm a little bit proud of that.
No, again, that's outstanding. And it's a testament to the organization and to the effort. So, but that's why I want to take a look forward, if you will. Have you started to think about an organization, if you will, for you as a council person? In other words, are you going to have someone volunteer, or, to handle constituent concerns? Is there thought of a dedicated phone number? Is there, what budget do you have, if any, from the municipality to engage in mailers and information campaigns? Ask me anythings on an ongoing basis. What are your thoughts on how to organize, if you will, you as a council person now going forward, so through the next 4 years you continue to build upon your success?
So, to be honest with you, I never prepared necessarily to win.
Right.
And right now I'm very much like, where do I put my hands? But when it comes to the questions that you just asked me, first of all, if there was some kind of monetary supplement specifically for that, it is like a part-time paid position. But if there was some kind of supplement that I had to put specifically into that position, aside from that, I would probably try to vote that down anyway. As far as the phone number is concerned, my phone number is not changing. It's still the same that it was when I was running. It's still on, my Facebook, my website, all that stuff. So I'm very much, and I'm sure I'm going to be kicking myself in the butt for it, but I'm very much taking a hands-on approach to that. People can call my personal cell phone with their issues, and I'm, accessible. Everything that was what I was during the candidacy is what's going to continue on. And, I do still, luckily my team is my family. So I do still have them. They are still advising me and kind of, keep my head out of the clouds, keep me grounded, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think was that everything that you asked me?
Yeah, no. This is so new. I know this is such a new process that a lot of the conversation we're having right now is formative, if you will.
I will continue doing my at least once monthly online Ask Me Anythings. And, as soon as COVID allows, or if I can find a way to do it during COVID, I do want to do in-person town halls in concert with cyber town halls, because, sometimes the people that don't have the internet want to be in person. And, I would also just go to somebody, just the same as when I was a candidate.
Excellent. The last question before we, as always, engage in, self-promotion, if we will, fundraising. Have you given thought? And again, I know that we're putting you on the spot because it's so new. You were just elected a few days ago, but what purpose of this show is to also plant seeds for people who've won, people who have are thinking about candidacies, all of that. Are you going to engage in fundraising at least on a somewhat ongoing basis, so that you can, quite frankly, promote some of your own activities, your own outreach, without having to go to taxpayers?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if we're talking toward candidacy, that's definitely something that I intend on getting involved in, getting other libertarians elected. And I do
Mhm.
have a set of skills now. I started 2 years
Mhm.
out. Starting 2 years out is excellent. You need to get on boards, you need to get in committees, you need to start going to meetings. People need to start knowing your name, knowing who you are, doing your networking. All right. Now, 18 months out, you start your fundraising. All right. You're going to fundraise for a straight year. Okay. And I would say keep as much under wraps as possible. And this, of course, is from me having my ballot flooded. And not only that, but my everything that came out of my mouth was being stolen by one of these 5 other people. My platform was being copied. They were using my slogans I'd been using for, a long amount of time. So you kind of have to keep all that stuff under wraps. So my suggestion is, yes, you do need to start 2 years out, but this is how you do it. You don't just start running right off. It's like a crawl, walk, run type thing.
Mhm.
Um, Now, as far as thinking futuristically to fundraise, one of the things that I cannot stand about politicians, and this is something that Represent Us says all the time, is as soon as they get into office, they're already looking toward the next election. And I absolutely want to get, reelected again. Um, Although I swore I wasn't ever going to run again because it's awful. But I think that my hope at this point, and again, I am walking into this very naively at this point, is that my voting record is going to stand for itself, and I can make the connections and the networking that I need to do, so that when it comes back around, you have to ask, but maybe not so much beg, borrow, steal, and plead. You know what I mean?
Well, you'll have a track record. That's great that it's 4 years, because that really allows you to establish yourself as a legislator, as a steward, as opposed to
Oh,
having in so many places in the country where your reelection campaign begins almost immediately.
yeah.
And so in that respect, that's outstanding. Now, we always like to engage in shameless self-promotion here. So again, let's tell folks where they can reach out to you. I know we're blessed and that we've got folks like Apollo and Kara who are not only been candidates themselves and have served themselves, but have worked alongside so many candidates. It's great that you're going to reach out and be a mentor to other potential candidates with advice and support. And at the same time, the greatest gift that you can give us as a libertarian movement is to not govern, but be that libertarian steward of the resources of so many, so that you are an object lesson. You are, what do they call it in marketing? Proof of concept. You are proof of concept in the fact that you, as a libertarian leader, are able to immerse themselves in the goings on, if you will, of a community, and simply make that community better by honoring your philosophy and your obviously high standards. And that's just wonderful. So let's tell folks where they can reach you if they've got questions or if they'd like to donate, because we need to remember that this is an ongoing process, that the win is fabulous. Let's all celebrate for her. Let's support her. But at the same time, knowing that there will be challenges going forward, and some of them will rely on financial support. So go ahead, give us your best.
Well, first of all, since you brought it up, I
Okay.
am perfectly cool with anyone giving any of those donations to the Frontier Project. I was
Mhm.
the Tennessee unicorn of the Frontier Project, and there were many times when the only thing that kept me going was Apollo Pizzell. And I
Mhm.
love Kara too. Apollo's like kind of my dad, though. So he's like way younger than me. So,
Yep.
absolutely, if you can give to the Frontier Project, give to the Frontier Project. They gave to me. And so many ways that I couldn't even explain. So shout out to Apollo too. I still have a donation link up at trishabutler.com, and you can get a hold of me at 931-933-1416.
Outstanding.
My
Well,
heart.
outstanding. Again, this past show last week, this show, probably shows going forward, there's a lot of us who are gushing. And, but I just want to say this in closing. This was a challenging year for so many people, and not everyone was as fortunate to win, despite the fact that so many people bled for the party. It's critical as activists, and I've been an activist for a very long time, that when you get the success, take some time, celebrate it. Whoever you are, whichever campaign you worked on, whichever office you might have run for personally, wherever you are in this country as a libertarian, immerse yourself in the success, learn from it, celebrate from it. Know that whether you won or lost, the collaborative efforts of so many great libertarians, great libertarians across the country, led to the kind of energy that elected folks like Trisha and Kalish and a bunch of others that we'll get an opportunity to talk to. So win or lose, every individual who contributed to this election cycle played a critical role in bringing liberty to our country in our lifetime.
$6,000. I got $6,000 in individual donors across the country, the largest majority of them being libertarians. And we don't like to give our money out. So I shout that out every opportunity. I fundraised $9,000, but $6,000 of it individual donors, libertarians across the country. And I could never say thank you enough.
Outstanding. Well, again, congratulations. Let's stay in touch as the program evolves over the year, and we talk about different things. Please let us know about your successes. Please keep us in the loop on your challenges. There's a whole lot of people out, if you will, in the libertarian universe rooting for you and just thrilled at your success. So let's stay in touch. All right, buddy?
Thank you so much. You guys.
We're going to take a quick break right now, and we're going to bring on our next guest, and let's see how this works. It's evolving technology here at LPTV, but our next guest is Cody Anderson. He is the chairman of I hope I have the phrasing right, because so many different states approach this in so many different ways, but I'll just say the Libertarian Party of New York. Cody, thanks for joining us. I know you're on the road. I know you've got a hectic schedule. It's great to finally meet you virtually, at least.
Pat, I met you in person before we met virtually. So it was
I know
in Syracuse.
I know, but this is your inclusion right now. This is your inclusion into the we'll call this now the class of 2021. We're still reaching out to candidates who are the class of 2020, but you are the first entree, if you will, into the class of 2021 on LPTV's Candidates Corner. So try to give for us the scope. I mean, I'm a native of New Jersey. For many years, I was a bridge and tunnel person. I worked in Manhattan. And actually for a while even lived in Queens. So I have a real sense of New York and New York politics. I've traveled all over upstate New York, but New York is just so difficult for folks who aren't from the Northeast to really get a grasp on. Talk to us about the state of New York, its politics, and the challenges and rewards, if you will, facing libertarians in the Empire State.
So first, Pat, I grew up in New Jersey as well. So I 201 yo, you were probably still around when 201 was the only area code in northern New Jersey. So New York is a big state. Yep. And a lot of people don't appreciate it. So of course everyone's there's New York City, and then they sort of consider everything else upstate New York, which is not at all true. I'm from a county about 2 hours north of New York, in the Hudson Valley and Columbia County, and I'm actually about 25 minutes southeast of Albany. If you go north of Albany, there's another 2.5 hours of Albany of New York State between Albany and the New York border, and then there's about 5 hours of New York that goes west out to Buffalo and Erie County. So there's a lot to New York. It's 62 counties, and and each of the counties is as diverse as the one that's as different from the one that's next to it as it possibly can be. So you have the great rural center of Western New York, and you have the the urban centers such as Buffalo, Rochester, Albany, New York City, Binghamton, obviously. So there's a lot to New York that people just don't get. They think of New York City. I bought a place in West Virginia, and when I went down for the home inspection, the home inspector said, "Oh, you're from New York?" Kind of gave me the hairy eyeball, and he goes, "Don't let you have guns in New York, do they?" so, so no, not in my part of New York. It's fine. But again, to your point, a lot of people don't understand the dynamics of New York, and how really much of Western New York and even upstate New York is what you'd consider to be red, and the New York City vote is really what determines the politics at the state level, the politics and the power dynamics. So that's important to understand.
Right. Now you've got, you mentioned, when we've spoken before, folks like Silverstein and guys like that who are and I'll use the term mob boss like in how they run the New York State legislature. And, it's, in one sense, it's almost like a continual state of, if you're old enough, you remember the toy Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
That's right.
You've got the mayor of New York essentially engaging in a continual Rock'em Sock'em Robot match with the head of the state assembly, and that's where the sausage is made ultimately. That's
right.
So what So let's focus on the non-New York City part for a bit, because we were blessed this year. The state of New York put up an amazing roster of candidates. We spent weeks literally having them on the show, just talking about upstate New York politics, downstate. John, who ran for out on Long Island, and then you've got quite a contingent down in the Binghamton area. How did folks do? What were the challenges they ran into, and where are the opportunities for libertarians in New York State going forward?
The biggest challenge I see for libertarian candidates in New York is that voters don't know what to make of us. I think that they're so jaded with regard to the message of liberty. I mean, they've had draconian policies forced down on them since at least the Rockefeller administration. And when you start to send a message of liberty to some voters in New York, you get outright rejection or you get confusion. Tom Queter's race was particularly interesting, Pat, and I'm not sure if you had spoken to him. He was. Oh,
yeah, he was on the show. Absolutely. I think everybody in the Libertarian Party at this point not only knows, loves, and very often reveres Tom Queter.
And every one of them has probably received a fundraising phone call from him too.
Yeah.
But so Tom ended up winning, not winning his race. I'm sorry. He ended up getting the most votes of any libertarian candidate in New York as a percentage of the electorate. He got about 10% of the vote, which is amazing. We couldn't be happier with that unless he won, but it was a very strong showing. When you look at how the votes boiled down, 25% of the voters did none of the above. And Tom's race was very interesting in that he was running against an otherwise unopposed Republican. So, a lot of what they did was try to do outreach to Democrats and try and bring them along. And as you might imagine, in New York, the Democrats weren't having it.
Right.
And he did bring quite a few along. He brought along quite a few. I would think quite a few Republicans and people who really either didn't like Akshar or just wanted something different. Tom's message was purely a message of liberty and local control, right?
Mhm.
And it was a very good messaging. I think of all the races that were run in the state by libertarian candidates, his was absolutely the most professional. He had Tucker Coburn as his campaign manager, and he had a number of people. I was full disclosure, I was his treasurer, and had a lot of good people who really taking charge of different aspects of his campaign and policy and things like that, and people from all over the state. So it was a very professionally run campaign that was, he really had an excellent chance of winning. And yeah, and again, a 10% vote is really excellent in a district that is kind of split between Binghamton and the rural parts outside of Binghamton. I think he did great. To the rest, I think we sort of averaged, for the congressional races and the local races and things like that, we averaged anywhere between 0.5% to 2% was kind of what we ran. And I think Mark Legowski ran a very good race. I think he may have been the second best finisher up in his assembly district in Rochester. I think he got about 6%, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but that's sort of what I recall. So, I think to the extent that the LP can pick strategic races in competitive districts, and when I say competitive, I mean ones where there's an unopposed candidate. For instance, in Mark Legowski's race, he was running against an unopposed Democrat, right? So there's no perceived vote splitting that the duopoly typically blames on us. But he really made an excellent showing in an otherwise fairly blue district.
Right.
So I think that the key here, for these kinds of races around the state, is to find those. I mean, absolutely run a libertarian platform. If you want to run and serve, by all means do. If we're looking to win races or have good showings in races, I think it has to do with finding these competitive races, finding places where people are open to the message of liberty. And I think that Tom's district obviously was a great place. I think anywhere out in Western New York is a great place. And I think it's a little more mixed, even in the North Country, up near the Canadian border. I think they're very red areas, and they too can benefit from that. It's going to be south of Albany. It's going to be hard won. My county, Columbia County, is about 2 hours north of New York City, at the end of the Taconic Parkway. We have always sort of we're part of New York 19, which is also a purple district. Columbia County has sort of been a purple county. It's been switching back and forth. The county is in Republican hands right now, but for the most part, because of all the weekenders that have homes and especially post-COVID, I think going forward, we're absolutely going to be a blue county. And so those are that's sort of the Hudson Valley dynamic, right? And it's and just because people have vacation homes, because Democrats, smartly are trying to get people to vote in these more, because they know they've already won the city, that they, to the extent that they can get them to vote in their vacation hometowns in Columbia, Dutchess, Greene, Ulster counties. They're absolutely doing that, and they're doing it with some success, to be frank.
What impact does the fusion element have? And for folks who aren't aware of the fusion, sometimes debacle, we'll call it a challenge here. You've got literally seemingly endless amounts of small parties, basically tiny special interest groups that form these crazy patchwork quilt of endorsements for candidates. How much of that is a challenge to the libertarians to become ascendant?
Well, so it depends, right? And there's two, this is sort of this is like the pro-choice debate within the Libertarian Party, right? And fusion is a very divisive topic here in New York State.
Mhm.
There's some view it as we shouldn't be cross endorsing any candidates on the Libertarian line. We need to stand out. We're not the Republican Party, and really, I would say that for the cross endorsements we've done, they have been mostly Republican, although there've been a couple Democrats. For the most part, I mean, there's a lot of people in state leadership who don't believe we should be cross endorsing candidates, and that we should be running Libertarian only candidates, much like National has decided. Then there's others, which I happen to be in that camp. Others that believe that fusion, to the extent that it is a tool in New York, and to the extent that it is a reality in New York, we need to use it sparingly to create liberty-based alliances with politicians who will bring ideas of liberty to Albany or to their local, to their localities. We in Columbia County, we have a board of supervisors. We don't have a county legislature, so the supervisors all have weighted votes, and they appoint a county supervisor. Others, they have elected legislative leaders that go to the ballot box. So it's not. We don't have the county issue. It's really just local, councilors and supervisors at the local level.
Interesting. The one area, and I know we're going to be spending a few minutes talking about ballot access, and that's sort of for so many state affiliates right now, that's the proverbial elephant in the room. But you and I spoke briefly offline about media. Media in a state like New York, where you've literally got hundreds of media markets, some huge, some infinitesimally small. As a party, how are you trying to get a hold of the beast, if you will, that is media? How do you get attention?
Well, so when I joined the interim state committee before we had our state committee elected, there were two things that were missing woefully. One was press, and the other was money, fundraising. And we started doing both of those things shortly after I joined the interim state committee. For press, it was most important to be able to articulate our position on various things that were going on around the state, on the local level, or even on the state level. COVID, as you might imagine, is a libertarian press release dream. So Governor Cuomo, for those of you who are not aware, the state legislature in March, under cover of COVID, gave Governor Cuomo essentially limitless executive powers, and they've completely abdicated their responsibility for passing any laws aside from the budget and the law that gave Governor Cuomo the powers that he has. So we've been doing a lot of press releases highlighting the executive orders, the tyranny that is posed by those executive orders, and really trying to fight those in the court of public opinion. Much to my chagrin, we haven't been getting a lot of press callback. We actually use a press release distribution service that goes out to about 2,500 media outlets around the state, and we've gotten some calls. We have press who's Spectrum, actually. Spectrum News is in Western New York, is very friendly to us, very friendly to Dwayne Whitmer. Shout out to Dwayne, who ran for New York 29. I'm sorry, out at 27. Pardon me. Out in Western New York, Chris Collins. After Chris Collins went to jail, he ran for that seat. But Yeah, they're very friendly to us, and have given Dwayne some great press, and have also given our ballot access struggle some great press too on the Capital, the Capital Corner show, which is shown statewide and all the Spectrum affiliates, which is great. But and we also have a very friendly reporter in Syracuse who gives us a lot of our due time, which is great. Beyond that, it's sort of tough to get the press we want, so we have to make those opportunities where we can, and we have friends in the press who are interested in what we're up to. But most importantly, it's like we talked about, Pat. You can't really, you can't wave the flag that the mainstream media is ignoring you. You sort of have to work with them, and as make friends, with your local press, and with strategic statewide press, like the Spectrum. This guy we have at Spectrum who supports us is a great find. We get on the Capitol Corner with with fair regularity for the Libertarian Party of New York. We're happy to have that press, and we just have to keep identifying these opportunities where people are interested in what we have to say.
Excellent. We've only got a little bit of time left, and there's obviously an exigent issue at hand. I would love to have another conversation with you in the near future about your affiliate development, because you've got a lot of people working across a very diverse state to create affiliates at the county level, and and from all appearances, it's going very, very well. It's not an overnight, it is truly a marathon at that level. It
is. Like I said, we have 62 counties here, Pat, and we have half of our counties represented by a recognized county organization now, which is huge.
Right.
Robert Rigo, who was elected to the LPNY Executive Committee as an at-large member, he is now in charge of our affiliate development. He's working out with Paul Seacrest from Chemung County.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a plan, and it's really just about creating a template and a training program, most importantly, because when our county affiliates were developed early on, they weren't really developed. They were told how to have a convention, adopt rules, elect officers, and that was about it. They weren't told about social media outreach. They weren't told about website fundraising, registration with BOE, nothing like that. So we were really at disadvantage, and fortunately, counties like mine, Paul Seacrest and Chemung, we sort of figured it out as we went along, and figured out most of what we need to. Paul has the distinction of being the only constituted county committee in the entire state. He got all of his committeemen elected at the June primary, and became a constituted committee under election law, which is great. But every one of our affiliates should have been doing that, and they weren't really given a lot of they weren't given any direction on how to do it. So that's something we're trying to correct.
Right. And all of this is a constantly evolving landscape, but it's just congratulations on the level of effort that you've gotten so far. As you mentioned, and early on, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of folks when I went to Syracuse, as opposed to going down to Florida for the national convention. And it's what's heartening when you travel around the Northeast as much as I do and meet libertarians. There are the state of affiliates in the Northeast is as strong as I've seen it in the 12 years or so that I've been around the party. And a lot of that is a testament to just the normal, no glamour, no guts. It's a day-to-day grind of good people getting together, for, creating the conversation, doing the hard work of building an organization on a local level like that in a state that is not friendly at all to the Libertarian Party, which is my rather clumsy segue to, my God, what did the state of New York, give us a little background, do to the Libertarian Party? And the state of New York, quite frankly, I've used as a poster child for what I lovingly refer to as Brezhnev era Politburo politics. What happened there, and what do we got to do to fix it?
Well, so first of all, just to clear it up, it's tyranny, outright, and what's happened. So Libertarian, I'll try and give you the quick back of the napkin. The Libertarian Party of New York got ballot access in 2018 when Larry Sharpe got elected. How did it get ballot access? Larry Sharpe got the Libertarian Party 50,000 votes or more on his line when he ran for governor. That gave the Libertarian Party automatic ballot access. Which really everyone has ballot access, but it gives us automatic ballot access.
Right.
Following Larry got about 90 plus thousand votes for governor. Which gave us the authority to organize under election law and have permanent ballot access or automatic ballot access, I should say.
And let me just jump in for a second. For a political party that is clearly holds the state, if you will, capital letters, the state, in such clear contempt, why is it so important that we get this type of recognition? How important is that for us to obtain this recognition so that we can effectively then dissemble the very state that provided it for us?
Voters are looking for choice, and there's there's number of minor parties in New York. The notable ones are Working Families Party, Green Party, Independence Party, the SAM, Serve America Movement Party, the SAM Party. They have all, until this election, most of them had ballot access. Now the only ones that remain with ballot access, automatic ballot access, are the Working Families Party and Conservative Party. They both got enough votes on their line to retain their ballot access, and we can get into how the law changed in just a minute. Bottom line is they ran the national candidates on their line. That's how they got ballot access. Let's be honest. So what changed, Pat, and I think this is the meat of what we should probably get into. So there was a public campaign finance commission that was handpicked by Governor Cuomo. It had Jay Jacobs, who's the Democratic chair here in New York, as well as a number of Democratic lawmakers and a couple token Republicans. The long and the short of it is, after all their deliberating, they decided that it would be a good idea if they took $100 million of taxpayer money to give it to incumbent, read Democratic campaigns throughout the state. They also decided to change the ballot access thresholds from 50,000 votes every 4 years at the gubernatorial to 130,000 votes for minor parties, or actually for any party. But basically, minor parties have to get 130,000 votes on their line every 2 years at the gubernatorial and the presidential line, respectively, every 2 years in order to keep their ballot access. And then independent petitioning thresholds have also been tripled. So again, our ballot access threshold has been tripled. We have to get it twice as often, and if we lose ballot access, we have to get three times as many signatures on our independent petitions as we used to. So a judge in Western New York, a suit was filed by the conservative and WFP parties in Western New York. The judge rightly recognized that the legislature abdicated their constitutional authority and responsibility to a commission. The judge declared all the acts of the commission unconstitutional. In fact, I think what they actually did was the commission was declared unconstitutional, which rendered all its acts unconstitutional. So ballot access returned, and then COVID came, and under cover of COVID, they put all the public finance commission stuff back into a rider onto the budget bill. So they passed a budget. Oh, and by the way, ballot access is gone. Right. So as of March, we're back in the same boat.
Wow.
Regarding ballot access. So we, the Libertarian Party of New York, in conjunction with the Green Party of New York, filed a federal lawsuit in the Southern District of New York to fight the ballot access restrictions. That case is still ongoing. The SAM party and the WFP also filed a lawsuit on different merits. Ours are more specific, and if you ask me, they're far more valuable. But they filed for a preliminary injunction before the election. They lost their request. However, their lawsuit is still ongoing. They're determining next steps. We are determining next steps, and we'll see how it goes. I believe that our case is very strong. We believe that the ballot access thresholds are draconian and cause irreparable harm, and we will have our day in court.
What's always astonished me in the past year or so, since this transpired, is that you've got a national Democratic Party that is hell-bent on allowing everyone the opportunity to vote. It's certainly a sentiment I applaud. At the same time, that same Democratic Party, and the Republicans in places like Texas are equally guilty, are intent on limiting, placing a stranglehold really on opportunities given to the voter on who to vote for. You can vote for any candidate you want as long as it's ours, right? Exactly, which again, why I draw the Politburo analogy with Brezhnev era politics. Lots of people would run, few would survive, and 99% of the folks plus would always vote for, Comrade Brezhnev. It's disgusting, and this is the important point of this program in terms of whatever national reach we get. Libertarians everywhere need to, number one, contribute to their state and county affiliates so that we can fight for ballot access and we have the funds necessary. But also, they need to use this example to poke holes at every opportunity and every conversation possible, right, against the duopoly. Because, we've just emerged from an election where one candidate was vilified, as probably he should be. Another candidate was seen as sort of this gentle, serene, elderly uncle with a sort of a goofy sense of humor, that, by a party bent on, if you will, returning the soul of America back to Americans. And yet at the same time, it is not neither the purview or the role of government to own that soul. And at the same time, if in fact that organization is hell-bent, if you will, on voter disenfranchisement, we need to call them out. Because the one thing that, let's just say, when you use the term disenfranchisement against the Democratic Party, it's got racial overtones, which it should, because quite frankly, all sorts of folks belong to the Libertarian Party, as do any of the other political parties that fall under the reign of terror of Mr. Cuomo in this case.
Yep.
We need to make that a part of our daily political conversation, that these are not nice people. They're not well-intentioned. They want our soul basically to eat it alive, to own it for eternity, and are not interested in democracy and are not interested in enfranchising voters anywhere, at any place, at any time.
That's absolutely correct. It's absolutely correct. And for all their complaints about things like voter ID and how voter disenfranchise, right? And it's, in the end, they are just as intent to disenfranchise voters as the other party.
Yep. There is nothing moral about their approach to electoral politics at any level whatsoever.
Well, and just look, two presidential elections now. The DNC has kneecapped Bernie Sanders, and you do not have to agree with Bernie Sanders' point of view, as much as you have to acknowledge that he had a certain point of view that was unpalatable to the rank and file, and so when it looked like he was winning, they made him lose.
Right.
This is exactly what happened, and I know plenty of Democrats, who live around me, who voted for Bernie, who were the state of New York went so far as to cancel the Democratic primary just so they wouldn't have to endure the embarrassment of Bernie Sanders getting any votes.
Right.
And Andrew Yang sued and got the primary reinstated. These are the games that they play. These are the games that they play.
And yet, you know, and you and I spoke offline about our special friends at WAMC about public radio around New York, which is, you know, when you can go to public radio in upstate New York and actually walk away with an understanding of who Zephyr Teachout is, then you know that their politics are certainly left wing, right? Yet, where is the outrage? I just would love to sum it up. 10% of the national outrage that was, well, quite frankly, rightfully dedicated to Donald Trump. I would love to get 10% of that dedicated to the outrage of voter suppression and disenfranchisement, and that is routinely exhibited, conducted, perpetrated, and perpetuated upon the American voter.
Well, and Pat, you know, if my interactions with my friends, with the majority of my friends on the left or the right, were any indication of the narrative that the two national parties are pushing, or the two duopoly parties, I should say, it's that they have trained them to believe that the Libertarian Party or the Green Party or whichever party isn't part of the duopoly is going to be the spoiler. And how could you vote for Joe Jorgensen? You're going to spoil it for Biden, or you're going to spoil it for Trump, right? Right. And that these were the unprincipled attacks that I was enduring online during election season, and it's this cognitive dissonance that the parties have that both of them have caused the problems that we are having right now in electoral politics in the United States. Trump came about for a very specific reason. Similarly, Bernie Sanders came about for a very similar reason, right?
And these are emotions that I felt firsthand when I did some petitioning up in Maine, and these are emotions I got run over by at times when I did petitioning in Rhode Island. And I would love to have the opportunity to petition in New York at some point, but again, based on their they make up the rules as we go along. I believe I'm not allowed to petition in New York because I am not a resident of New York. Is that still correct?
You are correct, sir. You have to be a resident of New York in order to pass petitions in New York.
I'm just going to put this out there because we've only got a minute or two left. I'm going to put this out there. If at some point, and I don't know if this has been tested in court, you need someone to get arrested for petitioning in New York City, I'm your man.
You won't get arrested, but you will. Your petitions will get thrown out.
Right. I just, again, the level, the contemptible level, whether it be having only one ballot box in a Texas county, which is bigger than the state of Rhode Island, or or creating these heinous fees, if you will, for access in places like New Jersey and places like Texas, or not allowing college volunteers or paid petitioners from out of state to come in and participate in democracy, New York City style or New York State style. The level that they will go to, the depths that they are willing to immerse themselves in order to, whether, as Charlton Heston once said, not, it'll be through their cold, dead hands that they'll let power away from them, is the cleanest term I can come up with, because this is family TV, right, is contemptible. There are a few more others that are probably harken back to yours and my days on, Highway 9 and Route 1 and 9. Okay, that's just gonna put that out there. And yes, I know where that giant Exxon sign is on Highway Route 1 and 9. And yes, I've occasionally participated in parties on Route 35. Right? Okay. We run a little long, but it was worth every moment. We'll put this into replay. Cody, listen again. Congratulations. My own personal reflection on the state of New York Libertarian Party. I've had the opportunity to let's just say bend an elbow with you folks. The whiskey tasting was phenomenal, by the way. What a great idea! All right.
That was my favorite memory of that weekend, Pat. It was pick four to sample and pick one to It was really fantastic.
No, but again, I've been blessed just because of the Joe campaign to spend time in the president's around the Northeast. And just listen, folks, if you hear this show and you get a chance to go to an event or meet people and party with the people, libertarians in New York State, do it. It is hella good times, and at the same time, they manage to maintain that all critical balance between having a great time and being passionate. Absolutely passionate against some of the most difficult circumstances imaginable among some of the great challenges in this country, to be not only proactive, but to be successful. One only needs to look at Larry Sharp's gubernatorial campaign when we talked extensively in the run up at the beginning of the show about just the sheer size and just the complexity of New York. Someone to have accomplished what he did in literally hitting every burg, every stop, every city, seemingly everywhere in New York State all at once, was a testament.
Every county, every single county, and he's done it 3-4 times now. It's unbelievable, and he's committed to the movement, and we're happy to have him.
Excellent. Well, listen, Cody, again, thanks for joining us.
Pat, I need to make a plug because I would not be.
Oh, please go right ahead. Shameless self-promotion.
Well, it's not self-promotion. I would not be the chair of the LPNY if I did not ask the party loyal around the country who are watching this right now to go to lpny.org/donate. Please make a donation, or a pledge would even be better, to support our ballot access lawsuit. We are going to fight this as far as we need to get the outcome that we deserve and that is morally right. So please go to lpny.org/donate. You see that URL right down there. but please do, if you're able to. We know we have a povertarian problem, but please to go there and donate whatever you can. $5, $10, $100, $500, please, whatever you can. We'd love your support, and thank you all in advance.
Yeah, I want to amplify this. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a number of affiliates that who are facing challenging ballot access situations. If every one of us simply chipped in a few bucks on each one, it would make an enormous difference in the future of this party. This party needs to somehow get out of this quagmire that is these constant fights for ballot access, and spend time disseminating, supporting the message of liberty. So every penny that folks can send to them, all right, it just has immense ramifications. Let's get us out of the ballot access business once and for all, so that folks in New York, folks in Maine, folks in Ohio, and folks in a number of states can actually then do what we love to say here on this show, which is scare the hell out of the squares. How about that, buddy?
Perfect. Pat, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and thanks to everybody out there who listened to our tale of woe. Pat, I'd love to be back on sometime to talk a little more about our. So anytime you'd like to have me, I'm happy to come back.
Right, and do stay in touch with us. Listen, put us on your press release list. We'll get together on that. All the state affiliates, all the kind of, send us your press releases. We will find ways somehow to amplify them, to get them out there. If an affiliate or a state party is willing to do press releases, it is incumbent upon us as libertarians to amplify them when and wherever possible. So again, we'll be all over it, buddy. Great.
Thank you very much, Pat. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, we went a little long tonight, but it was a hella good fun. This show will be up on the LP Facebook page for quite a while, perhaps an eternity. But it's absolutely worth reviewing both last week's and this week's show as a reflection of our efforts going forward, when we talk about not only the folks who won, but the folks who fought noble battles will bring to us their proof of concepts, their ideas, what worked, what didn't work. And we're going to continue to focus on the issues surrounding affiliates. We've got, quote unquote, a quieter year going forward. That doesn't mean the work doesn't need to be done. We've got great challenges, and we've got great opportunities here at the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian movement at large. Let's get to work. We'll see you next Friday night at 9:30 Eastern. You've been listening to Candidates Corner, a production of LPTV, Libertarian Party Television. Daniel Fishman, executive producer. My name is Pat Ford. on the big boards, as we like to say, John Gabso. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Friday.